Because if they could do it to them, if they could snatch students off the street without any pushback or recourse, they will do it to any of us. And to be very clear, it's going to be the people of color and vulnerable communities that are next in line.
It's like they want to be slaves again. They just do anything they can to twist some story into how tough it is on blacks, how rough we got it. A lot of different Democrats on CNN, on some other shows, are not happy at all with how good Trump's approval ratings are. Some of them will admit it, some of them won't. And some of them, the black ones on MSNBC, will try to make you think that the country is going to be so dangerous for us black folks. It's SeanDaniel here. Don't worry, I saved a great Scott Jennings clip for you at the end to reward you for watching through these idiots on MSNBC and CNN. Let's go.
But on the polling, because I think this is important, he's right. Trump has his best favorability on the issue of immigration broadly. But can I ask you to explain something to me?
Please.
You have some polling that shows Americans would be okay with everybody being deported who's here illegally. There's also polling that asks more specifically, if you have been in the United States for 10 years, you've paid taxes, you have no criminal record, but you are undocumented, do you support deporting those people? 63% oppose that. So how do we even make sense of these numbers?
Yeah, sometimes it's so interesting. You poll the public, and it turns out the public can hold conflicting views even within themselves, right? And it's part of my job to figure out, okay, where do they actually feel on the overall immigration picture? And I think it's important to note, as we have mentioned, is that Donald Trump's net approval rating on immigration is actually positive, which is very much unlike his first term. If you ask, are we on the right track or the wrong track when it comes to immigration policy, the plurality say that we're on the right track, which is very different from where we were just a few months ago under Joe Biden. So yeah, you see those polling and you see it's conflicting. It kind of actually reminds me a little bit of the gun control debate, right? Where you see, oh my God, 90% background checks. And then of course you look at ballot measures in places like Nevada and Maine. And then when it's actually on the ballot, it's basically 50-50. In my opinion, on this particular topic, what we're really talking about and the metric we should be looking to is, do people like, when they ask, do you like what Donald Trump's doing on immigration? And if the plurality says yes, which is what's going on, then that's the number that I think is most representative of the public at large.
He said the obvious part out loud on CNN, and they didn't like it. Like Jamel Hill, she's a super liberal sports reporter who's now trying to get into politics because she's the expert on race. They didn't like it. Now, it's interesting that they did this. They made this proclamation, talked about this issue in detail on a Saturday show, not on a weekday show that would get way more ratings, way more attention. They dropped this on a Saturday. Make that what you will. Make of that what you will.
You just heard CNN's Harry Enton that voters generally back Trump's immigration policies. Today in the Oval Office, President Trump said illegal immigration was, quote, the biggest reason he won re-election. He might be right about that. Do you think that your party is missing something on this issue?
Thanks for having me, Jake. I'd question that polling, because when you tell people the stories, you get very different answers. Ask somebody whether they think an Afghani national who helped the U.S. troops find Osama bin Laden and now feels threatened at home and is here on an asylum case because they can't be sure they'll be safe at home and is under temporary protected status but not here legally yet. Should that person be deported? Should a dreamer who has fought for our military, should that person be deported? Should a farm worker who travels back and forth with the seasonal crop, should that person be deported? Should somebody who came here to study for college, fell in love, had a kid, and now has overstayed their visa? These personal stories, people have a much different answer.
Do you think we in the media aren't telling those stories?
These people all, but
I mean, the media, look, the media tells plenty of stories like that. And, you know, we're not asking about individual A or individual B. We're talking about the deportation policy writ large. And there has been a change in public opinion on this in the last 8 years, away from your position and towards President Trump's position.
I can't believe Jake Tapper kept it real with a Democrat on air. He didn't like that the Democrat guy was trying to come at Jake and act like you guys aren't telling these stories. But also, I will never understand being an elected official, getting to be on CNN, and then you use your crappy laptop webcam, crappy internet connection, terrible microphone to represent yourself on a major platform. What is with the lack of professionalism out here? No wonder this guy doesn't get taken seriously. I'm in a hotel in Japan, and I sound clearer and look better, even with my little webcam, than this guy who has a whole budget, who has a whole staff, and he's elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Are you kidding me?
I've been talking about this all week, but Janae Nelson of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, she penned an op-ed in The Nation this week. And her op-ed talked about that we think that democracies are... the way they die is dramatically through these wars and blood is shed, and it's cinematic in a sense. But really, the realistic way in which democracies die is that it's dismantled brick by brick, piece by piece. And she says that what we are seeing now with the lawlessness from this administration are really the canaries in the coal mine gasping for air. I'm paraphrasing here. But to me, that is why Kilmar Abrego Garcia's specific case, the case of the gentleman who's a makeup artist out of California who was also sent to that prison, that is why the 75% of the folks who have been sent, the men who have been sent there that don't have criminal records, that is why this is so important. Because if they could do it to them, if they could snatch students off the street without any pushback or recourse, they will do it to any of us. And to be very clear, it's going to be the people of color and vulnerable communities that are next in line.
I think that's right, and that's certainly part of why the African-American community is so strongly behind the supporting Kilmar.
Yeah, we're like, we are not for this.
Yeah, because as you just said, if they're going to whisk them away, what are they going to do with us?
Bro, it's not plantation era anymore. You guys just try so hard to pull it back to the Jim Crow law time, to being in the slavery where you're going to face all these repercussions. It's like they want to be slaves again. They just do anything they can to twist some story into how tough it is on blacks, how rough we got it. Like, do they just want to be slaves again? Because there's crazy freedom and opportunity in America, and it is not bad like they say it is. Okay, enough of the crazy lefties. Let's let Scott Jennings cook.
Yeah, listening to Van Hollen explain all this, like if you're explaining how you came to be sipping margaritas with an MS-13 gangbanger who's lived illegally in the United States for 14 years before he was finally deported, you're losing, okay? You're losing. You're losing optically, you're losing politically, and I assume the people of Maryland are wondering, why doesn't this guy ever work as hard for us as he does for this guy who's down in El Salvador, which, by the way, is where he's from in the first place. Look, the Trump administration has a legal point of view. They're going to keep working this, through these different court cases. I think, macro view for me, the American people elected Donald Trump to deport illegal aliens. They especially elected him to deport people who are affiliated with very violent transnational gangs that we now characterize as terrorist organizations. I think he's doing his job, and I think the American people are behind him, and I think the Democrats like Van Hollen look ridiculous standing up for him more than they stand up for the people of the United States of America who are actually citizens of this country.
The black guy who was doing the host of the show, he's just like, oh, look at him. Oh, shit, how am I supposed to respond to this? Because Scott Jennings cooking. He's the best. Drop a comment. Comment Scott if you love Scott Jennings. Because that man is a boss. I want to see Scott. It's Sean Daniel here. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking or subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one. Let me get my salute.